Alright guys, latest chapter of Toriko is out, and what can I say, amazing chapter, 10 out of 10, and that's saying something because if you've seen my other manga reviews for this week's new manga, no 10 out of 10s, nothing close. In fact, One Piece I gave it a 7 out of 10, so for Toriko to consistently get such high ratings every single week is very, very hard and saying a lot, because I mean I explained in the One Piece manga review how it's hard sometimes because you need those transition chapters and you need those boring chapters sometimes in the plot. And the thing is, with Naruto, it's past that point. It's technically in the action, the fighting sequence scenes and the whole big war going on with the Kages and stuff, and yet I would not rate Naruto as high as I do Toriko in the last 10 chapters. I mean, overall as a manga, I mean Toriko, it's just been crazy. And you might be saying, okay, you're biased, but look at this. I picked up Toriko less than a month ago from chapter 1. I picked it up. And now I'm on the last chapter, not the last, the latest chapter. And I picked this up less than a month ago, from scratch. Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, all those others I have been doing for years. I've been reading them for years. And here comes Toriko. It's actually fairly new. I think it came out in 2009, which is saying quite a lot because Naruto was like 2000 or something. But yeah, Toriko, brand new, well not brand new, new manga, just picked it up, better than all of them. I mean, if you do not read Toriko, read it. I don't care what you think, read it, okay? It's not even about food, okay? There is nothing in this chapter related to food or chefs or anything of that like, except for the fact that they are using kitchen knives to fight, and the fact that they are chefs. Other than that, this is just as epic as Dragon Ball Z or Naruto. It's just as epic. So if you're like freaking like scared of this manga because it's a freaking food manga, it's not a food manga. It's not a cooking show manga. This is a fighting manga that is done. It's done very, very well. And I know there's those like crap, like food, drama, cooking mangas out there. This is not one of them, okay? Toriko, I don't understand why it is so... Well, it's not unpopular, but it's not as popular as it deserves. But I truly trust, at least the people in Japan, they know what's up. They will let Toriko rise. It already has its own anime, and I think it will rise. So without further ado, this week's chapter called The Mystery Man Joa, chapter 242, manga review begins now. So first off, no chapter summaries, first and last spoiler alert warning. I'm assuming you read the chapter. If not, you can read it online. I'm reading it online for free at mangahere.com. I have the laptop on my left to do a play-by-play. And I apologize for any background noise. That is just how my house works. And so, if you've seen it, we know that Cinderella is a problem here. Cinderella is a legendary knife, and it is the knife of the greatest chef of all time, the god of all chefs, whose name is Froze-sama. He was the combo partner of Akatsuya, the founder of all cooking. And so in the first page we finally see a close-up of this knife. So this knife is apparently, it's either one of the best knives ever, or it is the best knife ever made, in terms of cooking at least. And so I think it is the best knife. Maybe it's not the best knife ever made, but it's higher up there. The reason why is because there have been better knives made more recently. I mean, this is a super old knife. We have to assume that there's better ones made after so much time. I mean, at least in real life, things progress, things evolve to get better. You discover new technology. However, for some reason, you know, it's somewhat like Naruto in that Akatsuya is like the best, and then every generation down after that, they almost like downgrade in power level. Similar to Naruto in the fact that you got the Sage at 6 pass, and then the lower they go, the less powerful they get every generation. Regardless, we see this knife and it looks very, very plain, okay? Which is saying something, because we know like the high quality knives are usually very well done in the Toriko universe. And I mean, I really think that the knife Milk just recently made, Milk the First, just recently made for Ichiryu in the gourmet world right now, that huge knife that is pretty much like a freaking saber, I think that is up to par, if not better than this knife. I mean, Milk the First told us that he spent years making that knife. So regardless, it looks very, very plain. It's a very plain looking knife. It does look very sharp, so I'm assuming it's one of those knives that never dull. And again, this is the second manga. Okay, we saw one panel before. We've actually only seen 4 panels of Froze-sama. 2 of them are silhouettes, and he looks like a super old guy with a beard. Then there's 2 more. One happened this chapter. The second one happened last chapter. And they revealed what Froze-sama looked like. I believe what happened, I'm 99% sure, the author of Toriko decided, okay, screw it, I'm not making him an old man, we have enough old guys. So we're going to make this legendary figure, 1, a girl, 2, a very young girl. So her depiction is this very young girl with black hair and very big eyes. And we know that Akatsuya died of old age, I believe. And so we know like his disciples are very, very old now. They have gray hair. At least some of them do. And so if Froze-sama was a combo with Akatsuya, she's probably very, very old. So for her to be seen as so young, we're assuming she died very, very young. We don't know the details as of yet. And so this is a very, very interesting point. Page 2, or technically page 5 on this site. I'm reviewing it from mangahere.com. So page 5, a very, very interesting point. So Setsuna is like, what the heck? Why do you have Froze-sama's knife that doesn't belong to you? Joa, who is still hooded in like this dark cape, similar to Tobi before in Naruto, you see his like white eyes in that dark cloak, and he's like, that is why this is mine. I said so, did I not? And he says this as a response to pretty much what Setsuna shouts at him. Setsuna says, this knife belongs to Froze-sama. And Joa responds, and that is why I own it. That's why it is rightfully mine. And he says the same thing last chapter, but this time he makes it much more clear. He also says, don't pry into things, otherwise you might get killed. You don't want to ask too many questions. And so right after that you see a panel, and it's very well drawn. You see Setsuno, and it's a very, very like dark Setsuno. And it's very, like, if you look closely, there are these squiggly lines, and they are drawn like question marks, but without the dot at the bottom to signify the question mark. And I think this is very, very well done, because it shows like her whole face is covered in these wrinkles, but if you look closely, they're like almost question marks. So it's like it's implying that Setsuna is very confused here. And so what is happening, at least according to my belief, is that Joa rightfully owns the knife. I truly believe it. This doesn't seem like a guy who's gonna lie. This doesn't seem like a guy who needs to lie. He's super, super strong, as we see later on in the chapter. He can tell the truth about this. Most likely what happened is he's like, okay, I'm stronger than anyone here. I'm going to tell the truth. This knife belongs to me. And he doesn't elaborate on why, but I totally believe him. The reason, personally, why I think this is Joa's knife is because, other than the fact that it's honest, I think what happened is, there's many possibilities, but I think Frose-sama died and gave this knife to Joa. Or maybe Joa was somehow involved romantically with Frose-sama. We don't know. And the point is, Frose-sama died and gave this knife over. However, we do know that Joa is over 200 years old. So, we do know that these characters, the ones at least infused with gourmet cells, not the regular humans, they live for a long time. Joa has been alive for at least 200 years. We know that. He said so. Joa, I personally think, is, like, we know he competed in the very first cooking fest and won versus Setsuno, but cheated to do so. So, what I'm assuming is that this guy is some dark figure who has deep roots with a lot of the past and is very involved with Akatsuya and his disciples. We don't know who he is, but I believe this knife actually belongs to him. And so much more to talk about, so I hope you stay tuned. Next point, and by the way, I am not summarizing, I'm skipping quite a lot. I'm just bringing up the important points. Joa does this technique, okay? He goes balls out. He is obviously from Neo. Like, we know his subordinate is the king. He's subordinate to the king of Jadal. Why, we don't know. If his strength is really this strong, I don't know why he would be just a subordinate. Or why, for the matter, he's part of Neo. Maybe it's for the money, because we do know, like, each member of Neo has, like, trillions of dollars. That they're like the richest people in the human world. So anyhow, Joa just, he doesn't hesitate. He goes out and does a killing blow towards Setsuno. Setsuno's like, get out of the way. None of you guys can handle this. Like, he's telling all the fellow chefs to leave, because despite them being so strong, despite them being top 100, they can't handle this. So Setsuno is in no way light or friendly or nice at this point in time. She goes all out. She is like very, very serious. So Joa sends out this beam, right? Setsuno uses like this flavor burst. She just like almost like sweeps her hands up, and then this beam that's as big as her, it just scatters around her and turns into like a million pieces. And then you see some panels that are insane, okay? You see Setsuno standing like this, like just like after like scattering all the beams. And then you see like some of the top-ranked chefs in the human world just with their mouth open. And you see like all these little like scattered beams like flying behind Setsuno, and boom, the entire half of the stadium just gets blown apart. It's obliterated. It's like, it's pretty much close to DBZ. And so after seeing this, I'm like, this just shows you how weak all these people are. Here we are thinking, you know, Tengu, Barachi, and all the other people, Coco and everyone else, are decently strong. You know, they're doing these death matches. Then Joa does like one killing blast, takes out half the stadium. And then like all the chefs we've seen before, including Tengu Barachi, they're all like, whoa, what just happened? And that just shows the power gap between what we've seen so far, which is crazy already, and Joa. Okay? And this chapter just gets even more crazy. And this isn't even the first chapter that's done this. This is like the 10th chapter in a row that's done this in Toriko. Like, the Toriko author is putting in work. I'm really, really sad that not a lot of people are going to watch this video. I only get like 5 to 10 views per video, but man, this chapter of Toriko, it deserves so much acclaim. I wish more people. I know there's manga reviews out there who get like tens of thousands of views on their videos, but I don't think they will do this justice. I don't think they'll do this chapter justice. I mean, they probably don't realize how amazing this chapter is. They won't give this a good review. However, it is what it is. There's so much more to talk about. So boom, half the stadium gets blown out, and then the beam is still going. It cuts through the island. Then it starts cutting the water surrounding the ocean, and it keeps going. And the entire sea gets sliced apart. And this is like on a whole nother level. I mean, sure, we've seen it in DBZ, but in this manga, this is like on a whole nother level. And then you see Setsuno, and she's finally brought out her real knife. It's called Waterfall Basin Taketsubo. It's apparently the only one in the world, and it's her personal knife. And it's very fancy. It's like in the shape of a lightning bolt. And this is saying something, because all this time, all these chapters before, Setsuno was fighting without this knife. That means like she was still not fighting like seriously. She was like, oh, I can take these people on. I don't need to go like full serious mode. I mean, sure, she was very serious, but she didn't take out her knife until this moment. So that's showing Setsuno's power. She was taking on like 3 people at the same time. She was taking on Kuribo, another member of Neo. She was taking on Chio, but again, Chio got owned. And yeah, she was doing all this on her own, like without this knife. So she wasn't really taking it serious. But now we realize that, okay, we see the next panel, and she took damage, okay? It looked like she deflected the whole thing, but then afterwards, boom, all of a sudden, all this blood erupts, like, throughout her body, like, all these cuts come out, and she's like, I actually couldn't block the whole thing, I actually took some damage. And then boom, all this blood came out. And why I'm summarizing this is because it brings about another interesting point. Joa mentions he's very surprised his technique was blocked. He's like, the only people capable of such a feat are the 3 disciples of Katsuya. And this goes right with what I've been saying for the last 2 weeks in my videos. Right now, Setsuno is up there with... Okay, here's the power scheme, okay? Here's the power level scheme. You have Rose-sama and Katsuya, just like I explained earlier. Then below them are the 3 disciples, Jiro, Midora, etc., etc. And then Setsuno is slightly below them. And then Joa is obviously at the level of the 3 disciples. And then everyone else in Toriko is at a lower level. Zaris, the #1 cook, I mean, he's trash, okay? He and Kuribo are taking on freaking Setsuno, and Setsuno didn't even bother to take out his knife. And that's that, okay? Everyone else in Toriko, including Zebra, including all the Bishokukai, including Chio, they're all on a lower level than the 3 disciples, and Joa and Setsuno. Regardless, let's get to the big fights, okay? We see here, I forgot his name, but he's like the curry cook, and he has like a fake eye on his right eye, or either like a microscope on his right eye. He's like remarking how like Setsuno's taking things seriously for the first time, and he just keeps freaking out, and his jaw keeps dropping, and he keeps sweating because Setsuno is taking massive damage now. And it's like, what the heck is going on? And then he's like, she's asking him, what do you want, Joa? And boom, here's another interesting point. It's another cliffhanger. He says he's here to find a chef. Just one chef. And he's like, oh, he's not in the stadium. It has to be Komatsu. It has to be Komatsu. He is the only chef who has left the stadium. The others are either dead, captured, or still standing in the stadium fighting. No chef has been seen to leave the stadium. other than Komatsu. If there are in fact others, I mean they're probably useless. They're minor characters. They're ranked 70 or 80. No one cares about them. It has to be Komatsu, and this is very, very important because here's the thing. I did not realize how many people recognize Komatsu's talent. I recognized it. I mean, we know his food luck is tremendous. His food luck is like crazy on like a crazy level. And I mean, in terms of the IGO faction, the only people who noticed it was Tengu Branchi. And at first he didn't. He was very mean to Komatsu. But he noticed it eventually. And then we know Setsuno knows, but most, like 80 to 90% of the chefs in the top 100, they don't even know who Komatsu, well, they know who he is, but they don't acknowledge him or realize how great he is. Sure, we do get that dialogue, but we get that dialogue where a few of the chefs are complimenting Komatsu, but that's just like formalities. They're not like saying like, wow, you deserve rank 1, you have tremendous food luck and tremendous potential. And for Joa to recognize this, that is saying something huge. Again, we know that Neo has a much greater information network than the IGO or Bishokukai combined. So that's very interesting. And as far as the Bishokukai are concerned, they don't know Komatsu's power. The only person who knows is Starjin, and Starjin knew for a long time because they've had so many interactions before. They've seen Komatsu's talent and potential, whereas the rest of the Bishokukai pay no mind and have no sort of interest in Komatsu because they don't know how great he is. And I was under the impression that Neo had no idea either. And this is very, very great. I really, really think this is great because it shows how intuitive and how awesome Joa is. It shows how Joa is on a whole nother level. Not just on a fighting side of it, but also on a knowledge side of it. He knows which chefs are worth capturing. And so he's like, I'm here for one chef only. Okay, the Bishokukai can take all these trash. We want Komatsu. We want him for our side, Neo. It has to be. If it's not Komatsu he's searching for, I'd be very surprised. There can be no one else. If it's Komatsu's comrade, that would make no sense because the one in the Bishokukai's trash, he's not that strong, and then the one in Neo right now does not need to go anywhere or be captured because he's already part of Neo. And so it has to be Komatsu. And here's the thing, okay? Starjin has Komatsu right now, which means there's going to be a hell of a big fight. Most likely, if Joa escapes this, he's going to go after Starjin. Starjin is severely injured, but I believe that dark technique he mentioned earlier is going to fully heal him. They're going to have a big fight, but Joe is going to obviously destroy Starjin. I mean, Starjin and Toriko, they're on a much lower level. I don't care how great that fight was. I don't care how much I commended it in the previous video. Regardless of how great Toriko versus Starjin the fight was, that doesn't mean that they're that strong compared to Setsuno. And my voice is hoarse, so I'm going to keep it short. He does this new thing, like freshness up Yosei Giri, another dark technique. He does a lot of dark techniques, which I assume are forbidden techniques that aren't used because they have ethical concerns if you don't use them properly. Maybe Joe uses them because he has no side effects. It's the same thing with like Harry Potter. I mean, dark magic is used in Harry Potter, and it's forbidden, but only because of if you use it improperly, you can get really screwed up, or because you might use it immorally, like to kill people and stuff. And so he uses this new technique. It revitalizes and recovers all the nitro that Zebra owned, and then he powers them up too. he doesn't even have to cut them. He just cuts the ground, the shockwave shoots out, and it rejuvenates those he wants to rejuvenate. He mentions how he can choose very specifically who he cuts and who he does not. So when Setsuna remarks, "How are you certain that this blast did not kill the chef you're looking for?" He's like, "I'm too skilled. I can choose who I cut," which is huge. I mean, he just sent out this huge beam that destroyed half the stadium, and he's like, "Okay, I'm very detailed actually." And so these Nitro they're like recovered, and now Zebra's thinking Zebra's there still, and he's still locked up in the thorns. So all those manga reviewers and all those chapter review videos before, who were saying how Zebra could potentially, just because he was locked up by that tree, doesn't mean that he won't just break out the next chapter and own Teppai. Well, here we see him still, and he's still locked up by the tree, which shows that Teppai is a lot stronger than Zebra. Personally, I think Joa did an upgrade to Teppai as well, rather than just controlling him. I assume what happened was Teppai got power boosted several levels, just like the Nitro just got boosted now. And therefore, that is why Teppai is so much stronger than Zebra. I mean, he used one move, deflected Zebra's howl, and now he has Zebra locked up in these like tree branches, and he's still locked up. And then Zebra is like sitting there, like staring, because his mouth's covered up. He can't do a thing. He can't break out. And he's like, "What the heck? Those Nitro I just crushed. They're back to life, and they're like several times stronger." And so, here's the thing, just a little flashback. I really think that Joa was the one who set out the Four Beast. So here's the plot twister. I think what Ichiryu was saying before with a hidden force controlling the Four Beast, he wasn't referring to the main head who was controlling all of the Four Beasts. Maybe he was referring to Joa or some hidden force or hidden faction that had deliberately released the Four Beasts, and I believe it was Joa. Why Joa wanted to cause chaos and do something, I'm not sure what. We don't know yet. But that potentially means that Ichiryu has some idea that there is a third faction, a third party, Neo, but at the same time, he doesn't know the specifics yet. I think Neo might win out because they're just doing so great with Joa. But then again, Joa is like their only strong person. But at the same time, like they're super rich. Joa is much richer than both Bishu Kukai or IGO, and Bishu Kukai is like super poor. That's why they have to poach stuff. At least IGO has like research facilities, but Neo, I mean, I think they have it on the wraps. They said they have an information network much larger than IGO or Bishu Kukai, which means, I mean, they know everything. They know everything. They know what Ichiryu is doing now in the gourmet world, trying to capture that salad on Akatia's menu. They know everything. And so they're probably, why, like the times we've seen them, they are not sweating at all. So I'm assuming that they're like, okay, we know Ichiryu is trying to get this salad. We already have it all like figured out. We have the counterattack. We have like several counterattacks prepared. We know what we're doing. We're gonna get that salad, even though we're focusing on the Colosseum right now, whereas Ichiryu is focusing on the gourmet world. Who knows? I mean, Ichiryu devoted most of his forces to the gourmet world. He only sent 2 people here, and both of them turned out to be traitors. But he was smart, and he also sent out Mansum as like a third precaution, and then also Rin, and they in turn brought in like these level 80 beasts. In fact, those beasts might still be fighting out there against the GT Robos. And so this chapter is so jam-packed. I mean, look how long I've been talking. Just 20 pages, and there's so much implications. And I really think the manga reviewers who just do like a 5-minute review, I respect them and stuff, but this goes to show you, like, for those people who just skim the manga, and now I'm not talking about the manga reviewers, I'm talking about the mainstream people who just read manga. Those people who just skim through the chapters, they don't get most of the stuff out of it. So Setsuno is like very, very like injured at this point. You can see for once blood running down her face, whereas before when she got cut, she somehow insta healed it, mainly because her gourmet cells were so strong and can adapt. But here she has, you see this panel where she's protecting Judah and the other cook, the curry cook, and she's like, get away, you can't win versus these Nitro. And these guys are like super strong. I mean, this, we're talking about the millimeter inch chef here, and then the curry chef, who's, they're like both in the top 10, I believe. So I mean, to believe that the Nitro have gotten so strong, this is not good. And then we see Teppei coming in, and he's got Setsuno's like feet wrapped around, and she did not expect that with these binding trees. And here's the thing, Teppei has been confirmed to be Jiro's grandson. That in itself is very, very controversial. Why? Because I believe that Setsuno is Jiro's wife, which means this is his grandson attacking her grandmother. But it's not ever mentioned. We know that they were a combo partner and they had like a big relationship, Jiro and Setsuno. But were they actually wife and husband? Most likely. That's just how it works with combo partners. If you look at Chinchin and Chiyo, they were combo partners too. They had a son. And so I really believe that's how it worked. It wouldn't make sense if the combo partners just had different wives and husbands. But yeah, this is potentially the grandson attacking the grandmother, Teppei. Which brings me to another point. Who is Jiro's son? Who is Teppei's dad? We don't see him. If someone can clarify or make it clear, go ahead in the comments, but I'm pretty sure it has not been revealed. Where has he been? Shouldn't he be stronger than Teppei? Shouldn't he be as strong, if not stronger, than Jiro? What's he been doing? Is he dead? We don't know. And so, finally, we see this page in this manga, and it's all these pages are just such quality pages, 10 out of 10 each single page, especially this one. This page is 12 out of 10. And I mean, I've been trashing on the other mangas. I mean, I gave One Piece 7 out of 10. Most of the pages were very bad. This Toriko chapter was great. So the Nitro gets like he like does some like super speed move, gets like an inch away from Setsuno. Then you see like a finger, and and then you see like a hand, and it's like a hand about to flick something. And it's right next to the enhanced Nitro's face, and it looks like this hand's about to flick the Nitro. And I'm like, this has to be Jiro. This has to be Knocking Master Jiro. He's arrived. And it is. And then the whole Nitro's head just explodes from one flick. And I'm like, okay, now we're talking, okay? This Jiro right now is on another level, okay? No one can compare to him. Like, even if everyone teamed up, they would not even be a match for him. Like, he is on the top level right now. In terms of living people in the Toriko universe right now, it's Jiro, Midora, and Ichirayu. And then Joa, and then everyone else is below them by a huge margin. A huge margin. We've seen this has been proven so many times. I mean, Ichirayu took on like the 13 Ren punch. He did not even flinch. And then, I mean, here again, Jiro, one flick, enhanced Nitro, dead. His whole head gets exploded. And so this is going to be a huge fight, and yeah, no one compares except Setsuno. No one compares to these four big beasts right now. the real four heavenly kings, which are Jiro, Ichirayu, Midora, and Joa. And then the final panel is Jiro, who for some reason is in his old white-haired form, which is it's saying something, because in the gourmet world, he somehow became his hair became black again, and he became youthful. So I think that's just like a side effect of the gourmet world. But here he's back to his old self, which is, it makes sense, because when he was getting the pufferfish, he was also old. So he's still very old, he has this white hair, and he's like, geez, this sure looks like a mess, and he's like ready to fight. And I really like Jiro. I think he's the best out of all these people, all the three disciples, because I'm pretty sure Akatia's will, according to the evidence we've seen, is that he didn't want another war to erupt. He made God, or he made the dish God, to promote peace. And although he predicted that this dish, this food that he named God, would result in a war in the future, I'm pretty sure he never wanted that. And here we are, and it looks like Midora, his own disciple, is the one who's starting this. But he's not alone. You have rich, greedy people, greedy, obese people in Neo who want this dish as well. And then I think Ichirayu's moreover just making his own army simply to combat Midora, but at the same time it's still just as evil.